Good morning and welcome to our service. I'm Scott Finley and I'll be your service coordinator on this beautiful sunny morning here in Middle Tennessee. This month, our Souls Matter theme is commitment. We are blessed to have Reverend Sara Green present our sermon today. Reverend Sara originally planned to be live with us this morning, but on Wednesday, Reverend Sara gave birth to their new baby Emil. So big congratulations to Reverend Sara and her family. What a joyous occasion. Reverend Sara and baby Emil are both doing fine. Instead of joining us live, she forwarded a copy of a beautiful sermon that was recorded previously. Working with us today are Jesse as our Zoom host, Karen as co-host, Sandy is at GNUUC providing the chalice for our service today, and Mary is one of our readers. Amongst the chalice display this morning is the orchid that was in front of our church a year ago. Song Kim brought this orchid home at the beginning of the pandemic, nurtured it, and brought it back to us in full bloom. Thank you, Song, for the flowers and for the reminder that even in a pandemic, care and hope blooms and can bring us back into the light. Sandy, if you can please light our chalice this morning while Mary reads these opening words.
We renew our commitment, Reverend Suzelle Lynch. Each time we light the chalice, we renew our commitment to our Unitarian Universalist faith. With the spark of a match, we make it new again, as fresh and surprising as the first day we encountered this spiritual community and realized we were home.
Thank you. In all times, joyful and when there is sorrow, a congregation is a group of folks who have chosen to stay together. Reverend Cynthia is ready to guide, support, and contact the necessary folks when there is a need. You can reach out to her in any of the ways on the screen, most immediately on her cell phone at 859-221-3034. In our covenant, we share together. We profess our commitment to each other to work towards building a better world. Please join me in reading our covenant. We covenant together to make a welcoming community, to walk together in the way of truth and love, to seek the life of the Spirit as it is known by each person, to support each other in thought, word, and deed as we work to build a better world. For our first song today, please enjoy Where You Go.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. And where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, Mother Earth. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, where you go, I will go, Mother Earth. Where you go, I will go. And where you lie, I will lie, Mother Earth. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, Mother Earth. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. And where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, ancestors. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, ancestors. Where you lie, I will lie. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Our reading today comes from Tunde Olaniran, a musician from Flint, Michigan. To manage the grief, we tie our roots together, trading sorrows. To speak when there is danger, we learn to hear heartbeats as drums. To speak what no one has seen, we create a whisper of hurricanes. To make a world that can hold us, we teach each other every small, imperfect part of love. We will protect you. We will hold you. We will be protector. We will be protected. I will protect the skin you were born in. I will protect your right to love. I will protect your right to pray. I will protect your right to choose. I will protect your however body, and I will protect your total and radical liberation. Our Share the Plate partner for March is the Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee. Second Harvest is working to meet the extraordinary pandemic needs. Demand for their services has increased by 50% as food resources have become harder and harder to secure. Second Harvest has had to reevaluate their programs and completely adjust their distribution models to provide no-contact distributions and ensure the safety of their staff, volunteers, and clients. Second Harvest needs our financial help more than ever before. Please donate generously to Second Harvest as our Share the Plate organization for March 2021 in any of the ways shown on the screen. If you'd like to mail a check, please don't mail it to the church's address. Instead, email the church at gnuuc@gnuuc.org, and Chris will reply with the correct mailing address to send in your donation check. Thank you for doing what you can. Please watch this video with their CEO describing further about the amazing process Second Harvest performs to get food out to where it's needed throughout the 46 different counties in Middle and West Tennessee.
Second Harvest was what I call born in 1978, so 42 years ago. And we serve 46 counties in Middle and West Tennessee. And what our mission is to feed hungry people and work to solve hunger issues in our community. We capture as much food as we possibly can from over 220 grocery stores, manufacturers, farms. Once volunteers have sorted all the food that we have, then we get that food back out to our 450 partner agencies. And we call them the boots on the ground. So they're out in the neighborhoods. And when someone calls us or wants to find food, goes on our website, we can direct them to a partner agency right there in their neighborhoods. With the tornadoes and COVID, we had a double whammy, and we've seen upwards of a 50% increase in need from the folks in our community. We typically will send out about 650 to 670,000 pounds of food a week. It's over 1 million pounds a week to feed the increased need. So we have about 12 different programs, but one that I think is really interesting when you think about our rural counties that we serve, we do mobile pantries. Think of a farmer's market where a truck rolls up. There's about 20,000 pounds of food that'll feed anywhere from 200 and to 250 families, a week's worth of grocery, and you come through the line and you get the food that you need and you get to take it home. Really gives us a way to serve all the communities that may not have the number of grocery stores and partner agencies that they need. If people don't have food, they don't have anything. Nothing works for them. So they don't want to play sports. They can't learn. You can't pay attention. It just is such a distraction. So we do backpacks that are specifically shelf-stable foods with pop tops. And it's really fun because families are the ones that pack those backpacks. I'll say, why are you here doing this? And the kids will say, because there's other people in my school that don't have food and I want to help. So it's very rewarding, and children should not have to wonder where their next meal is coming from. No one should, but children definitely shouldn't. For every dollar a donor gives us, we can provide 4 meals. So we reach out to individuals, we work with foundations, we work with people to do food drives. One of our big things we do with companies is we do sponsorships. We're in Hunger Free Summer right now. We'll move into Hunger Action Month. And we work with corporations where they'll make a donation and they're part of a partnership to bring awareness for that specific need and issue. And we do PSAs that run on TV, some digital advertising, billboards, things like that. So it's really all about just really shining the light on the issue of hunger and bringing people to the table. And I think the most important thing from a business perspective, 96 cents of every dollar goes back to our feeding programs. Hunger exists in every single county throughout Middle and West Tennessee, and you can help by getting involved by volunteering. You can go on our website to learn more, and honestly, you can just make friends and just find different ways for you to engage through a variety of different activities here at Second Harvest.
Our Time for All Sages today is a poetry film from the On Being Project. We know poetry to be a critical pillar of public life. It rises up when official language fails us. It gives voice to what is human and what is true, how we connect, and what questions we hold.
Quiet friend who has come so far. Feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Let this darkness be a bell tower, and you the bell. And as you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. Move back and forth into the change. What's it like, this intensity of pain? If the drink is bitter, turn yourself to wine. In this uncontainable night, be the mystery at the crossroads of your senses, the meaning discovered there. And if the world shall cease to hear you, say to the silent earth, I flow, and to the rushing water speak, I am.
Our meditation today comes from Maya Stein's poem, It Looks Like the Sky is Coming Apart and Together at the Same Time. Afterwards, we'll have a few seconds of quiet time for reflection. And the body is holding its losses like a fist, and a fleshy hope is opening to an unprecedented vastness. And whatever we think we are leaving behind will keep insisting. And the things we desire will elude us, and our efforts will pose as failure. And we will not recognize how far we've come, and we will solve one problem and create another. And we will feel broken, and we will not be broken. And the silence will be deafening, and we will love destructively, and no one will appear to be listening. And there will be too many doors to choose from. And we will keep saying, I don't know how to do this. And we will be more capable than we ever imagined. Our members and frequent friends and visitors will likely remember Reverend Sara Green. She has joined us many times. For those of you who are visiting us for the first time, Reverend Sara roots for the saints, stays ready for Mardi Gras year-round, and is learning all the time about justice, community, singing, and integrity. She's a queer Black mama to Peyton, Mackenzie, and Emil, and partner to Huntsville-born Ben. She's affiliated as a community minister with First UU Church of Nashville and graduated from Vanderbilt Divinity School. She works as a youth and young adult program manager at the UUA, running programs specifically for youth of color and young adult organizers and changemakers. Moving her body through dance, singing justice songs quietly to herself, and cooking meals entirely from scratch are some of her spiritual practices. Today's sermon was recorded pre-pandemic as she was speaking before a live in-person congregation. Here's Reverend Sara Green.
So I want to begin this morning with another breathing exercise. It goes a little something like this. We're going to inhale for 2 counts and exhale for 4. So take a deep breath in, 1, 2. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale, 1, 2. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. One more time for good measure. Inhale, 1, 2. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I don't know about what you just experienced, but when I do that, something really fascinating for me happens. When I inhale, I feel tense, and I feel constricted, and I feel just anxious. And when I exhale, I feel grounded, and I feel at ease, and I feel connected. And what's fascinating for me about that is because oxygen is good for me. Oxygen is what keeps me alive. Oxygen is, I'm supposed to want oxygen. I do. We breathe all the time. And so it's fascinating to me that when I have a lot of it and I hold it and I hoard it, it doesn't actually feel that great. Exhaling actually feels a lot better. And it stretches us because you get to the bottom of that exhale and you're like, am I gonna make it? But it feels better and I feel calm. Maybe that's what you experienced. And so when I'm thinking about how we can live more into our values and how we can build relationships, I think about exhaling as opposed to inhaling. And when I think about all the stories that surround love for me, it's mostly heteronormative, one person to one person together. So I was a child of the 90s, and we got the best Disney movies and some of the best Nicholas Sparks, which I still love today. But they imparted on me a particular sort of love, a particular sort of intimacy. And I'm curious today about the other narratives that we can use to exhale, to live more deeply into the spirit of generosity. So I told the story of Jesus feeding the multitudes this morning because I think it's a brilliant example of what it looks like to exhale. What it looks like to share, what it looks like in the womanist tradition to make a way out of no way. And I think there are 2 really important parts of that story that allow Jesus to exhale, and hopefully the disciples to exhale with him. The first is the imagination, the imagining that it was possible that we could feed these people. And so I'll talk about imagination later, probably not today. But the second thing that I thought was really critical in that story that allows Jesus to exhale is the blessing. That moment that he had with God or his father, whatever, works for you. And not because there was some miracle that transpired, not because God had a buffet and made it appear and everyone was fed. Less that. Definitely not that. What I thought was so magical was it was about gratitude and honoring a covenant. Jesus and whoever his father was had a covenant to do certain things on earth. That I think us as UUs are trying to do similar things. Sometimes tear down the empire, hang out with poor people, do the things that would make justice come true in the world. And so it's interesting to me that the moment of covenant, that exchange, that conversation with his father was a critical step for him before he was able to feed the people. So back in September, I did a service with Tyler Coles, a former VDS Vanderbilt Divinity School classmate, and he asked two questions that have stuck with me and that I think about almost every week. He said, "What are you building and how are you building it?" I mean, it's a simple thing, but it really cuts to my gut and keeps me honest and striving towards integrity. He said, "What are you building and how are you building it?" And so as UUs, we have the 7 principles that are kind of the what, kind of the bones of it. And our covenants, when we form them in community, are kind of the how. And today I want to talk about a couple of things that would really flesh that out a little bit, that help us to breathe. And the first thing is living into the space of gratitude, to exhale. What would it look like if we exhaled in our covenants? What would it look like if we started the process of covenant making from a place of generosity instead of scarcity and hoarding? Oh, there's not enough time. Oh, we don't have enough pieces of paper. Oh, what would it look like to make a way out of no way and to exhale? But still, there's something else tangible that I think will really up our game as UUs, really keep us honest. And for this one, I turn to the story of Ruth and Naomi, which you can find in the book of Ruth, the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible. And basically their story is this. Naomi is Ruth's mother-in-law, and they had traveled, and Ruth was married to Naomi's son, who unfortunately passed away. And so as was the custom, and Naomi had another son who also passed away. So typically in the Bible, they just pass them along. But they were all dead, except Ruth and Naomi. And so Naomi said, "All right, well, it's time for you girls to, go on and find you a husband and move on with your life. I have nothing to offer you here. I'm just going to go wander around, hoping that someone will care for me because I'm getting older." And Ruth didn't want to leave. She stayed with Naomi, and they traveled back to Moab, and then eventually Ruth got married. But right now we're going to talk about the part before she gets married again. And so that's a really important story. I used to think about it as like, oh my gosh, they're so queer. Yes, lesbians in the Bible. This is amazing. I feel so great about queer visibility. But that's shifted as I've gotten older, because that still feels very narrow to me. And it kind of puts them in this box where they have to be dating. They have to be in this particular type of love. But what if they weren't? What if there was something else? And so Jay is one of my conversation partners. And we talk about access consciousness a lot, which is a set of tools that is aimed at giving people the agency to create the life that they aspire to live, to examine the promises they've made about who they are and create more promises that are better suited and destroy the other ones. So it's about how can we root down and imagine what else is possible and then move towards that. And one of the things they talk about is intimacy. And that's what's really helpful for me when I'm thinking about Ruth and Naomi outside of this. Well, they have to be in love. They really should have just like eloped and been happy. Intimacy. And so access consciousness lays out sort of the 4 things that make up true intimacy. Not sex, not those other things, but what is at the core of it all. And they have 4 things. The first one is honor. The second one is gratitude. The third one is vulnerability. And the fourth one is allowance. So I was talking to Jay and I said, I wonder if I could map them over, the story of Ruth and Naomi, to give me a fuller picture, to give me another story to add to the other stories I'm collecting that are not just about 2 people in love forever and ever, amen. So I think stories are how we shape our world. So I wanted more stories. I wanted more stories so that I could imagine what it looks like for me. And so I did. And so the first thing that I did was look at how honor showed up. And I thought about how honor showed up in Naomi saying, go. I want you to thrive. I want you to be taken care of. I want you to live your best life. Honor kind of is like respect. It's like, I respect you enough to not keep you. I'm sure they had a beautiful companionship, but I respect you enough to let you go. I said, wow, that's great. I'm taking a lesson from that. What would that look like to love people and then want them to live their best life, even if that wasn't with you? So after Naomi says, go, do your thing, be great, Ruth and the other woman who married her other son wept. There's a lot of weeping in this chapter. Lots. Which I think is great. And I interpreted that. I saw in that an enormous amount of gratitude for all that they had done while they were together. I can imagine that they were remembering all of the sweet memories, remembering the community that they had made, remembering all the times they made a way out of no way. I can remember that all being in the tears and in the weeping and then the pausing between and then more weeping. I can imagine that being a space of gratitude. So Ruth said, I'm not going there, I'm going with you. And she gave this grand soliloquy that in part was some of the words that we sang earlier, but basically, where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. Where your God will be my God. Where you will be buried, I will be buried. And that's huge. Women don't do that in the Bible. That's the kind of thing that is reserved for the person who's taking care of you financially. But she made that statement. And what a vulnerable thing to do. I don't know all of the options available to Naomi about her responses. She could have still sent her away. But to be able to say, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, this is what my heart desires, is incredibly vulnerable. And lastly, so Ruth gives this big soliloquy, and Naomi's like, what do I do? She's gonna follow me around. How are we gonna live in this new arrangement? And Ruth says, all right, let's go. And that for me is a moment of allowance, of I am going to make space for all of you here with me. All of your vulnerabilities, I'm going to take that and treasure that as a gift. And I want that part of you. I can imagine, they probably talked about that more. I can imagine Naomi being like, so you said this thing. How are we going to work that out? I can imagine Naomi having the grace to stay in conversation about both of their vulnerable moments. And so those were the four things that Access Consciousness helped me to see in that story of Ruth and Naomi, about how they were vulnerable, how they respected, how they allowed space for one another. So my question for you is this: what other stories are there that help you to imagine what it would look like to exhale, what it would look like to draw your circle deep and wide? Those were deep roots that Ruth and Naomi were cultivating. What would it look like to move from a space of abundance? To say, I've only got 5 hours of free time today, and both my partner and my mother are important. How am I going to spend time? How am I going to make them feel loved? How am I going to show my appreciation? Even though I have 5 things to do, and my to-do list, and the hours, what would that look like to imagine a world where all of it is possible? What are the stories? Where do you see them? Where do you put them? Do you put them on the shelf and you're like, oh, that sounds cute? Oh, yeah, but that's in a movie. Oh, but that didn't really happen. Where do you put those stories? Do you imagine your own stories? As we leave here today, I encourage you to keep collecting those stories and then exhaling them out. Collecting the stories from nature, from other religious traditions, from our own religious traditions, and then exhaling them. May we sink deeply into the belief that we have enough. And may we seek out relationships like Ruth and Naomi, where we get to practice honor and vulnerability and allowance and gratitude. May it be so.
Thank you, Reverend Sara, for those incredibly thoughtful words, in addition to sharing the songs and readings for today's service. Our next song is We Are Dancing, Sara's Circle.
We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. Sisters, brothers, all. Here we seek and find our story. Here we seek and find our story. Here we seek and find our story. Sisters, brothers, all. We will all do our own naming. We will all do our own naming. We will all do our own naming. Sisters, brothers, all. Every round of generation, every round of generation, sisters, brothers, all. On your circles moving.
You'll find the words to the chalice extinguishing at the bottom of your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of
Sorry about that little technological glitch, part of living in the age of technology. But now is the time in the service where we share our joys and concerns. Thank you to those of you who joined us on YouTube today. We hope you will join us again next week. Jesse will now turn off our YouTube stream.